hope that I know my light is not the greatest right now. I probably should have put on some light and try to help it a little bit. I don't know. But how you doing? So I'm on a lunch break. I'm on a quick lunch break. Um, and I normally don't do this, right? This is not really what I do. But I felt like I needed to give a testimony. So this is gonna be story time. But there's always a meaning to my stories, right? How y'all doing? Instagram. I'm also streaming on Facebook. So I was stressed. I was strolling through, and I've already prayed over this live before I got live. Just to let you know that. But I was strolling through my Instagram yesterday, and I ran across this pastor who he was telling a story about how he had broke down, his car had broke down, and gas. I guess something had happened to his gas tank or something like that, and he basically someone came and helped him, right? Took him to this spot, had the key, opened the door, fixed his tank, filled up his gas tank, and sent him on his way, right? And when he went back to thank that person, the people next door, um, it was a restaurant next door. That basically was like, ain't nobody been there, lived there, nobody got the keys there, the lights ain't been on in years, and that kind of stuff. And they, at the post asked, has anybody else experienced that, right? And I, and then so I was that had already been on my mind because it took me back to a time when I was in Chicago. But then today, and then well, even before today, last night I was reading something that was talking about how the planets are aligned. Like in the in the heavens, there's different planets that you can actually see if you take you have the special telescope or whatever. But the planets, there's movement happening right now. So when I get up today, I'm just in this mode and I'm just praising, worshiping. And I just feel like there is change happening. And people really need to pay attention to their intuition or whatever the Holy Spirit is whispering to them in the midnight hours or their dreams or whatever messages that God is sending to them. And they may be there may be some times when they are going to be experiencing um angels unaware, which I'm really supposed to be back at work, but I gotta let this out because you know when it's in my spirit like this, I gotta move. So it was 2016. I'm in Chicago. I'm living my best life. Believe this. The money in Chicago was the bomb diggity. So I was working in Chicago as a nurse, and and I actually was doing like a couple different jobs, and then I had, on Madison Avenue, I had my own business, and it was a very prosperous season, right? It was prosperous. I had just started performing the song Superwoman, right? I think my first place I went to was, it was going to be New York. I had already performed it in Atlanta, and I was on my way to New York. And I was working for this company. So anyway, God dropped in my spirit Jesus, and it was about this time. It was around this season somewhere. I knew that I had this event coming up in New York, right? But the Holy Spirit let me know because I was working through an agency. The Holy Spirit let me know that my last day with that company was going to be, basically the day that I came back from the event. Like I wasn't going to be returning, and I needed to make sure that this was God. Like because my money is good, I'm living good, my kids is happy, we doing a darn thing. You know what I'm saying? Got a nice apartment. Got the park right there. The kids can walk. I can walk to my business. Like, is this you, Lord? Like, I'm gonna need some signs. I'm gonna need some confirmation. I need to know that this is you. So I start asking God to show me, give me confirmation. Let me know that this is you. This is you, and I'm not just doing this on my own will. So the Holy Spirit started ministering to me, and I can't explain to you my experience with the Holy Spirit because you got to have that kind of connection with yourself. But I'm just letting you know what that pastor said on that show is real. So I start praying and the Holy Spirit let me know three things was going to happen. Um, that I was going to experience three things that that they were. I was going to help somebody that day, right? And that I was going to have a prophetic word when I got to um, New York. that it was going to be exactly 60 degrees when I performed, and that I was going to meet an angel. I was going to have meet, an angel was going to help me, or I was going to meet an angel. Anyway, so actually it was four. So I had that information in my spirit, and I'm like, okay. And at the time, I was working as a community health nurse, so I was going out into the community in Chicago. I was going to the Medicaid populations, right? And I was knocking on their door because I was one of them nurses that if your case manager can't get in touch with you, I'm the one that goes out to your house and knocks on your door. I'm doing drive-bys in the medical field. I'm knocking on your door like, hey, your case manager hasn't been able to get in touch with you. Can you please? What's your phone numbers? Do we got the correct number? All that kind of stuff. That was who I was. So of that day, I had 3 homes on my list to do. This is after I didn't got to receive this word in my spirit from the Holy Spirit. Pay attention to your intuition. Listen to this story. So I have these 3 homes listed, right? And I already heard the Holy Spirit say, today you're gonna help somebody today. You're gonna help somebody. So and that's my job. My job is to help people. So I'm thinking, okay. So I go to the first house, ain't nobody there. Okay, nothing happened. I drive to the second house, nobody's there. Okay, all right, cool. I get to the third house. I only had 3 houses that day. I get to the third house and I go up on the door, up the porch, and I knock on the door, nobody answers. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, I must be like losing my mind because I swear the Holy Spirit said I was supposed to help somebody today, and ain't nobody been home. So I turn around to get ready to walk off the porch, and this man approaches. He comes to me, and he says, "Can you help us?" I was like, "Okay." He was like, "Me and my family and I, we're getting evicted out of this house, and we just want to take a picture so we can try to fight for it." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So he was like, can you take a picture of us in front of the house?" And I'm like, okay. I didn't see any like eviction signs or nothing like that on the door on the house. So I'm like, okay. So I was going to use my phone. He said, no, use mine. So I took the picture of the 3 men. It was a white van out there. It was 3 men. I took a picture of them, gave them back, and it was like, "Oh, thank you." So I still was feeling like, "Hey, how y'all doing?" I still was feeling like, "Okay, God said I was supposed to help somebody," and I. So when I drove away from that house, I said, "Well, maybe I was supposed to help them because one of my jobs was to get resources. Give people resources like on housing, utilities, all that kind of stuff." So I was like, "Well, let me go back to the house." Let me go back to the house and let me, because I literally had just left, right? I hadn't even made it back home. I said, let me turn around and let me go back to that house so that I can be assistance to them, right? That's what I was thinking. So I drove back to the house. When I drove back there, the white van was no longer there, right? So I'm like, well, darn, I just left, right? So I went to the house on the other side, and I knocked on the door. And kind of similar like how that man did, right? How the pastor said happened to him when he went and knocked on, talked to the people at the restaurant. So I went to the people on the that was next to the house, and I said, can you give me the information for the people that live in this house, this White House right here? I said, because they asked for, I want to give them some help. And they was like, what people? And I'm like, the people that was just here. And he was like, ain't nobody been there in months. I was like, I just talked to 3 men that said they lived there. He said the only people that lived there was an old lady, and the old lady hasn't been there in months. So I'm tripping, right? Because my first thought was the only help that they asked for was for me to take their picture. So we're moving right along. I'm getting closer and closer to my date to go to New York to perform Superwoman. So the second thing was I get to New York, right? But the weekend before I flew out, it was the coldest because mind you, this is wintertime. So New York was experiencing a cold blast and they had below 0 temperatures the weekend before I was supposed to go. Because I remember asking a friend, like, darn, you asked her if she want to go with me. She was like, to New York. And did you see the weather out there? Ain't nobody going to New York right now, Patricia. But I already was planning on. I'm like, okay. Mind you, one of the things the Holy Spirit told me was it was going to be exactly 60 degrees when I performed. that I was going to have a prophetic word, and that there was going to be an angel there. So I was going to meet an angel. So everything that I was told happened. A friend of mine called while I was there and gave me a very prophetic word. Right? She basically and this was at the beginning of me doing Superwoman. This before all of this, you know. At this point, only thing I had really done was the books. I had written some books, and I wasn't even finished filming the movie. I was still working on the movie, you know. So she basically let me know that God was going to send people to help and all that kind of stuff. She gave me a prophetic word. I don't want to go all into that. I'm like, okay. Here we are in New York the weekend before it was below zero. But the weekend that I was there, which was the very next weekend, it was warm. When I say it was warm, it was nice outside. You didn't even need a coat. And true enough, when I went to perform, it was like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When I went back later, once I got back to Chicago and looked at where you could tell the timing and what the weather is or the temperature is in a particular place. When I performed at exactly 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, Jesus, I promise you, I lied to you not. It was exactly 60 degrees in New York when I performed Superwoman at Smash Studios. Can't make it up. Okay. So my nephew was there, right? I stayed till Sunday, and then I ended up going to church with him. And so it was like you could tell that it was time. It was getting time. Like you could tell that the weather was about to start changing. And it's so funny because it was almost time for me to go back to Chicago anyway. Like going to church, that was the last day of my trip, right? The last day. So I'm like, okay, I I'm headed. My nephew. The weather starts changing because, mind you, this is my birthday month that all this is happening in. Just like now, this is my birthday month. So they had a whole big thing at church where they passed out cake and everything. And when church was over, my nephew was taking me back on a train to go back to catch my flight back to Chicago. Right? I noticed that I could see the change in the sky. You could see the clouds changing. You could feel that the temperature was changing. And it was like, okay, it's time for you to go, Patricia. Your 60 days of warmth is about up. So I get on the train, me and my nephew, and he takes me there. And I'm like, okay, I know what time I got to leave. I got my little backpack. And I only got so much money with me because I had this, Chicago. New York ain't free. It's expensive. And my nephew was there. And so I knew I only had enough money left after my trip to pay to put my luggage on the airplane. That's all I had. I had somebody, that was coming to pick me up, once I got to Chicago. But my money, all I had was enough to put that freaking luggage on the airplane. So when I get to New York's airport, and they had you gotta catch the train. So I got off, and I got a big bag. I got one of the military. At that point, I still had my military luggage thing, and that's what I put it all in because I was trying to. I knew my money was limited, and I was trying to pack it all in. So whatever. So anyway, I get up to the gate to the thing, and I got more than enough time. Put my luggage on there. I got enough time. When I get up there, the people at the attendant was like, "We can't find you." What you mean you can't find me? I'm like, we don't, ma'am, I'm sorry, we don't see your ticket. And I'm like, what? I got a ticket, So they was like, well, let me see your ticket. So when I showed it to him, he was like, you're not the right terminal. Like, okay. And I'm thinking it's gonna be like Atlanta and Ohio, where you could just, you got terminals all next to each other. If you ain't at the right one, you just walk a little way down and go to the right one. I was like, well, where's the right terminal at? He said, you're gonna have to get back on the train and you have to go all the way back around to get to the right terminal. What? Oh my God. Because mind you, I've been standing in line all this time waiting to get up here to this teller, and my clock is ticking. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at how much time I got left to catch this plane. And I know you got to have your luggage on it by a certain time, and I only got a certain amount of money. Then I heard the Holy Spirit say, catch a cab. I'm like, oh, but if I catch a cab, I'm not gonna have enough money to put I'm not gonna have enough money to put my luggage on the plane. Jesus. I heard the whole trust. So I'm like, faith walk, right? So I catch a cab and I take that cab around to the right terminal at New York. And if you've ever flown in and out of New York, you know what I'm talking about. So when I get up there, I'm in line. Now I'm about to panic, y'all. I'm about to panic because my plane leaves in 20 minutes and I got this big bag of stuff and I don't even got enough money really to put my luggage on the plane. So I'm panicking. I go to the front because I'm melodramatic. I'm blaming on my mama. I'm melodramatic. So I get up to the thing. They take it too long. And I know my clock is ticking. So I just yell. I yell in the middle of the thing. I need somebody to help me. I'm about to miss my plane. Like I yell out like real, real loud. I'll never forget this. It was, and I pray, this man will see this one, if it was an angel, thank you. So this little Caucasian male comes out with this red jacket on. He comes up to me. He said, and he had an accent like he was from France or somewhere. And he was like, how may I help you, ma'am? And I'm like, I'm about to miss my plane. And I'm trying to explain to him what's going on. And I'm like, I only got enough money to put my stuff on the plane. This man, he pulled me from the line in front of the other people that was waiting. He pulled me up to the front. He made the attendant look for my stuff. He took my duffel bag, my military duffel bag. He grabbed the bag out of the trash bag or whatever. He emptied that. He opened up the bag, stuffed half the stuff in because you can take 2 carry-ons. He stuffs half my clothes in the trash bag, and then he turns my army duffel bag into a backpack. and then he says, follow me. And he says it in front of his accent. So he got me running down like I'm in New York. And I'm running up the escalator, down the thing. I'm following this man with this little red jacket. Oh my God. And I'm emotional. I think I'm snotting and one tear rolling down. I think my heel broke. I'm following this man, because I know if I don't make this plane, I don't have enough money to stay in New York. You know what I'm saying? And it was not going to be good. So anyway, and I had to get there on time. So I'm following him. He takes me through security. He takes me in front of everybody. He takes me in front of everybody. Takes me through security. He runs me. This man runs me all the way to my terminal. Does whatever I have to do, and to log me in. By the time I get there, we got there just in time. Jesus, I'm talking about the door. You know the door. I'm talking about the door that leads to the terminal where you go up on the get. I guess it's like a bridge or something. Like you open that door that you go through, and it's like leading up to the cabin of the airplane, and you step in there. That long corridor or whatever. That door was closing. When that little man took me through there, he literally, if it was not for him, I would have missed my flight. And I'm sitting here crying, and he takes me into the little corridor, and I looked at him, and the only thing I could say was, "Are you an angel?" That's all I could say. That's literally all I could say. When I got back to Chicago, I was so emotional. So I knew, because everything that God said was going to happen, everything the Holy Spirit told me was going to happen, happened. So it let me know that I was supposed to let go of that job. So, and it was good money, y'all. Come on now. And so I started making, and then, it was not just about leaving the job. It was about leaving Chicago. That whole thing it was about going back to Atlanta, which I hadn't had the greatest experiences in Atlanta. So at that time, I was not looking forward to it. And I was living my best life in Chicago, and the money was good. I did not want to leave. So I was like Gideon, like, can you turn it red? If this is what you want me to do, make that turn green. So those 4 things happened. And so I said, I knew, it must have been God's will. So I started making preparations. I remember when I had to close my doors, to my business, I cried. I sat in that office and I cried because it had taken me so long to finally get my own brick and mortar place for my business for Around the World Media. And I cried like a baby. I am not lying. But I knew that I had to be obedient. Jesus. So I closed that down, start making plans to come back to Atlanta. And right before I left, I want to say it was probably 3 months before I left. I was 'cause I used to buy single cigarettes. You know, I battle with cigarettes. Everybody know that. So I used to buy single cigarettes. There was a some one day when I was on my way to go buy some single cigarettes, my phone rang. This is when we were still using the home phones. And so I stopped to answer the phone and talk to somebody, which I normally wouldn't even talk to them because I usually don't deal with bill collectors and stuff like that. But it was something about, school and student loans. And I sat down and actually talked to him. Maybe about 10 minutes. By the time I got off the phone, I heard the sirens outside. And when I went outside, there was a shootout. Jesus. And the shootout was in the same path that I would have walked. But 3 months prior, I swear I saw probably what was the spirit of death walking down that same path. God was telling me that death was coming, to to that area. There was violence coming. This 2016. So by the time I actually leave, and I'm not really want to, but I knew I'm like, I'm not going to be in Chicago this summer because y'all about to go through the most. I could feel it coming. I knew it was coming. God wasn't getting me out of there for nothing. I understood that. By the time I left, the west side of Chicago went through one of the most violent seasons to the point where they were literally praying on Madison Street, the very street where my business was that I had to let go of. They was having prayer circles, and Madison Street, Madison Avenue, ain't no little skinny street. This is a major street, two-way, four-way lane, whatever, two-way lane or whatever. If you're familiar with Chicago, you know what I'm talking about Madison Avenue. You know that Madison Avenue is in there between Austin Boulevard and Pulaski, somewhere around in that area. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, not that's wrong because they are Madison goes this way and Austin goes that way. Pulaski that way. It's cuts, it splits. But anyway, it goes all the way downtown. So to stop in the middle of a very busy street to have a prayer circle, you can understand what was going on. The west side of Chicago was at war. And I had teenagers. My daughter, who wasn't listening with a hot slop at that time, she used to be running out, sneaking out, and all that kind of stuff. It was that same season that the young lady, Kanika Jenkins, was found in that freezer in that hotel. And my daughter went to the same high school. It was like God took me and my children out of Chicago right before the violence was about to be off the chain. And then the biggest part of this is, you know, the very job, because I was working through an agency through a real big corporation. The very job that I let go of in faith, not knowing like is this so real? When I got back to Atlanta, and after I was no longer flying back and forth between Atlanta and Chicago, and I was like in Atlanta and looking for employment, the very same corporation, Jesus, with the very same type of job, paying just as good of money that was just as good as Chicago, called me in for an interview, and I didn't even know. I didn't even know that that was the company. I didn't know until I went in for the interview and found out that it was the exact same corporation that God had told me to let go of. He gave it right back to me. And it was better because the company relationships and how they treated their employees was so much better with the love that I had there. Like I saw them. I don't think I've ever had another job where our employee relationships were so good. The money was good. It was just like that was a prosperous season for me in Atlanta. Pay attention to, well, to end this all up, something is happening right now. God is doing something in the season. The planets are not moving around in the heavens for nothing. There's things that's happening. We're in a shift, Jesus. And so in this season, it's going to be very important for you to listen to the Spirit within. It's going to be very important to listen to the Holy Spirit. Something told me, your intuition, the small voice within. I don't know. Pray about it first and do act off what your spirit is telling you or your intuition, because there are things that are happening. You are entertaining angels unaware. You are. So if you're somewhere and you feel like I don't need to go down that road because something tells me that I don't need to do that, don't do it. Follow your intuition. You know what I'm saying? Follow your gut instinct. Do those things. Trust God in this season. Follow your intuition. And yes, you are experiencing angelic angels unaware. Those situations where you had those last minute experiences that nobody could help you, and all of a sudden here came help out of nowhere. That is an angelic experience. So I can confirm what that pastor said. Yes, I've had that. Yes, it is happening. Probably going to be happening even more than it was before because of what's going on right now. There is a spiritual warfare that's going on. I don't care if you don't believe it, I'm telling you. And so God is going to make sure that his angels are in position, Jesus. And so, yeah, that person that you think is just a regular mojo, hey, you could be entertaining angels unaware, for sure. Today is February the 28th. And I was just reading that the planets are aligning. There's been a lot of movement in the heavens, which may have something to do with these planes that keep crashing, because there might be something going on with the the navigation or the gravity. There's change happening. There's transition, and anytime there's change in the heaven, there's change on the earth, and we are all connected because we are all energy. So whatever is changing in the heavens, you got to know is changing for humankind, for humans. It is. So pay attention to your intuition. Pay attention to the small voice within, and trust God. That's the testimony that I felt like I needed to confirm that pastor testimony, right? How you doing, everybody here on Instagram? What's going on YouTube? I needed to confirm that pastor's listen, it's not that cricket. I needed to confirm that pastor's testimony and say, yes, yes, there are angels walking amongst us. Yes. You never know when an angel is coming to assist you. Yes. Yes. So pay attention to whatever the Holy Spirit is telling you to do, because that decision could change your life or could save your life, you know, or it could lead to meeting someone who's going to open a door that's going to change your life. There's something about this last day of February. Something. Somewhere, and you may not even know about it, a decision is being made on your behalf. Somewhere, somebody is doing something that's going to benefit you, and it started. You've probably been working for it forever, but there's something about today. There's something about February the 28th, 2025. There's something about the alignment that's going on in the heavens and all that kind of stuff. There's a shifting, there's something that's happening. And whatever it is, it's going to be something about February that kicked it off. It's going to be something about, this last day of February. It's something about it. Just pay attention to whatever is going on from now till then, and pray and ask for guidance, and pay attention to what the Holy Spirit tells you. Pay attention to your intuition, that gut instinct, that something told me, that something that's on the deep inside of you that God placed there. Pay attention to it, because it's not happening for nothing. It's a reason. There's a reason. So that's all I want to say. Let me get back to work. Peace and love to everybody. Make sure you go. Look, that's my bell. Keep telling me go back to work, Patricia. I'm headed back. Make sure you go listen to my song. Whatever we ask, because you're in that season. You know, those prayers. This is a Joel 2:25 type season. This is a, this is a season where you can ask God for whatever, and probably prayers that you prayed a long time ago that you forgot about, but you still had that small seed of faith about. God's about to bring the past. There's something about September. February. There's something about February. There's something about February 28th. There's something about something is starting. There's a change going on. There is something. So pay attention to whatever God is telling you. The Holy Spirit, that voice within. When you pray, when you trust God, when you ask God, and if something says don't go that way, don't go that way. If something says go that way, then go that way. Especially if you're covering your thoughts, your actions, and your movement with prayer. Prayer first. Take it to God first, and then follow whatever God tells you to do, whatever the Holy Spirit tells you to do, whatever your intuition tells you to do from that point forward. Because there's something about um, February 28th and this new moon and this transition that's going on in the atmosphere and on Earth. And this transition is going to affect your life depending on, what you've been doing over these last few seasons. But you got to take that back to God and see what's what. But I'm just telling you, I just felt it. So I just had to come and share. But let me get up off of here before I get in trouble. Where you had a long lunch. Hey, I had to get this word out. Pay attention because God is speaking. And the next level of your life is dependent on what you do now or what you trust in God for now. So go listen to my song, Whatever We Ask. Whatever we ask. Peace and love, y'all. Bye bye. I'm going to end my Instagram first. Bye, Instagram. This was your lunch break. Your lunch break with Patricia M. Goins. Peace and love. I'll finish them up in a second. Alrighty, so YouTube, thank you so much for all the times that y'all stuck by, and said hi to me or whatever. Peace and love to you. Make sure you check out my song, Whatever We Ask, that I just released. But yeah, pay attention. Something is up. God is doing something. Believe that. Know that. And I don't know. I just feel it. Peace and love, y'all.